The unprecedented scale and speed of the government's economic response has driven a rapid increase in borrowings. While there will be a significant increase in government debt, which will take many years to repay, our measures have been designed in a way that protect the structural integrity of the budget. Australians know there is no money tree. What we borrow today, we must repay in the future. Temporary and targeted, the new spending measures were not designed to go forever, but to build a bridge to the recovery phase. As Standard & Poor's stated less than 4 weeks ago, while the government's fiscal measures will, and I quote, weigh heavily on public finances in the immediate future, they won't structurally weaken Australia's fiscal position. With $320 billion, or 16.4% of GDP, in financial support, our focus is on getting the country through the crisis and positioning the economy to recover on the other side. This has only been possible because of the strength of our economic position when we entered the crisis. Growth had risen from 1.8 to 2.2% in the December quarter, and the IMF was forecasting the Australian economy to grow faster than the United States, United Kingdom, Japan, France and Germany in both 2020 and 2021. The unemployment rate fell in February to 5.1%, with the participation rate at near record highs against the backdrop of 1.5 million new jobs being created over the last 6 years. After inheriting a budget deficit of $48.5 billion, the budget was back in balance for the first time in 11 years. And despite the adverse economic impacts from the global trade tensions, fires, floods and drought, we were on track for the first surplus in 12 years. Our ability to handle this crisis has once again reminded Australians of the importance of a strong and stable financial position, which must always be a primary responsibility of government. The proven path for paying back debt is not through higher taxes, which curtails aspiration and investment, but by growing the economy through productivity-enhancing reforms. Our focus will be on practical solutions to the most significant challenges which will be front and centre in the post-coronavirus world. Reskilling and upskilling the workforce, maintaining our $100 billion 10-year infrastructure pipeline, cutting red tape to reduce the cost burden on businesses and the economy, and tax and industrial relations reform as a means of increasing our competitiveness. The values and the principles that have guided coalition reforms in the past must guide us again in the future. Encouraging personal responsibility, maximising personal choice, rewarding effort and risk-taking while ensuring a safety net which is underpinned by a sense of decency and fairness. Unleashing the power of dynamic, innovative and open markets must be central to the recovery, with the private sector leading job creation, not government. We know that a strong economy is the foundation for everything else, and only with a strong economy can you provide the health, education and essential services that Australians rely on. Conscious of the extraordinary health and economic shock created by the coronavirus, the government was determined to act quickly and decisively. We were in a race against time to replenish our personal protective equipment stocks, to increase the capacity of our intensive care units, and to secure a sufficient number of ventilators to deal with the expected surge in demand. We provided additional funding to our scientists and our medical researchers who are participating in a global mission to find a vaccine. We entered into an equal cost-sharing arrangement with the states and territories to meet the extra burden on hospitals. Non-urgent elective surgeries were suspended, and we guaranteed the viability of private and not-for-profit hospitals to ensure over 30,000 beds and 105,000 healthcare professionals were available. We allocated more than $850 million to the aged care sector to provide additional support and services at this difficult time. On the economic front, in less than a 3-week period, we announced 3 separate support packages, each complementary and each building on the other. Combined, they represent the largest fiscal response in Australia's history. Over $25 billion of support has already flowed to households and businesses in recent weeks, with more than $30 billion to flow in the next month. This is the largest and fastest injection of economic support Australia has ever seen. Our economic measures fall into 3 categories: support for households, support for business and employment, and support for the financial system. For households, our actions are designed to cushion the blow from the income shock and to support consumption across the economy. Given the level of uncertainty, our economic measures provide more than financial relief. They provide a psychological boost as well. There are so many stories from across the nation about how our measures have provided an economic lifeline to people in their hour of need.